Hello and welcome to another Coldtype tutorial. This time we're going to be making some variable font loop animations. To get started, here we are in Visual Studio Code. We have a virtual environment as indicated by this. If you don't know how to do that stuff, it really just boils down to this, but there's another video on getting Python 3.9 installed. You know you're in your virtual environment both because that says venv and when you say Python -- version. You want something like that. Highly recommend 3.9. It's just fun because you can do that thing, the walrus operator. Anyway, here we go. Let's make some variable font animations tutorials. We'll call it a welcome chi because we're going to be using the font chi. Great font. Cool thing about Coldtype, you can just type a path in here. None of these folders need to exist. The file doesn't need to exist either. It's going to say, do you want to make it exist? Agree. And then this is the little default thing that you get. So it's just a little something to show you that it's alive and moving. But you can get rid of that. We can call this welcome because we're going to have the text welcome eventually. And you want to return a stew. Welcome's like a little long in terms of real-time animation, so keep it a little shorter. We'll just do ABC for now. You want to find chi on your computer. You might not have chi, obviously, because it's a font you need to buy. Chi. You should buy it. So we're using chi. You can use any variable fonts, doesn't really matter, except that the axes that we're going to use in the variable font are specific to chi. We can make it kind of big. And then, let's just see what happens if you just do this. It just says ABC, and it's down here in the corner. You can make it bigger than that. What you probably want, certainly what I always want, is to align, or often want, is to align the text in the square. This is what this says. So F is frame. So the function you're writing gets frame as its only argument. It's the oneness of the universe is your frame. The frame has an A property that stands for animation. An animation has a rect, which stands for rectangle, which is the frame. So you align it. I'm just hitting save. It's the only thing you really need to do. Command S. Now it's centered. You can change what that looks like. This is, HD, 1920 by 1080. If you want to be kind of old school, you go 4:3, 1440, 1080. That's cool. The default is 1080, 1080. It's great numbers. ABC. It does nothing. If we go over here and we hit the space bar to play the animation, it is playing right now, but there's nothing to animate because this function returns the same thing for every frame of the animation. So let's change it. Something easy you could do just to figure out what's happening here is you want to translate the whole thing after you've aligned it. You can say F, that's frame again. E, that stands for ease. Pass in an easing mnemonic, great word. You want to loop it one time, and you want it to range from -100 to 100. So we're changing the y-axis translation, -100 to 100. We go over here, press spacebar. Nice. It's kind of fast. It's pretty annoying. You can slow it way down. We'll do 60 frames. That's like a nice slow without being lethargic. Now we can stop it. To be honest, that's not fun. That's not cool. Chi has a gravity axis, so you could do this. Same idea here. You don't need to specify the range because all axes in Coldtype are normalized automatically from 0 to 1, which is what the ease function will always return something between 0 and 1 unless you scale it with this range RNG. Whoa, nice. So that's the gravity axis of the variable font. Just to see what it looks like, we can also do the yeast axis. Very cool. One issue here already is that when it gets real yeasty, or when it's risen, is that right? You probably want to pull in the tracking just to get it to fit. And you can do the same thing. TU stands for tracking in units, aka units of the font, aka like the font is originally font size 1000, and then when you say 500 here, you're making it smaller. But if you think you're operating at that 1000 size, that's what these tracking pixel units amount to. So if you said -100 to 100, this is going to be wrong, but that's 100 between each one in font space. I'm not explaining this very well, but maybe it's kind of intuitive. The idea here is that if I go and change this, it's exactly the same. Usually tracking has a relationship with the size of the font. Tracking units, TU, doesn't, because font size is illusory in the digital world. Cool, that's backwards. You wanted 100 to -100. Maybe you don't want 100, you just want 0. That's cool. But already you're starting to get a sense of what's wrong here. You can't really see it. So you can set the fill to, you don't have to be black, you set it to fill 0. F stands for fill. Two different Fs. F by itself as a variable is a frame. F as a function name, as a method name, is fill. Stroke, that's S. Do 0. If you do -1 here, your fill. Oh, we didn't define a stroke width. Got to do that. -1 can be none. Same thing. -1. It can be transparent. That's cool. I like how that looks. It could be more exaggerated. Even more exaggerated, really. So, there's also a shortcut here, because can't help myself from writing functions like this. You can say -1, so this is fill, stroke, and stroke width, 0, 1, and then you can collapse all that into just that little call. Really into brevity. Central concept in Coldtype. This isn't code that you're going to maintain or read for the rest of your life. This is code that you're writing right now to accomplish something. Probably quickly, because it's design. Okay. The thing that's happening now is that the variations are applying to every letter in the same way. Basically what you're saying is, I have a string ABC, I have a base font, chi variable. I didn't really explain this. The font is called chi variable. This is just a substring match. That's what font find is. Anyway, so you have this font, the variable font, as a size. You're setting the axes. And when you set the axes, you're essentially creating a new font on the fly, if that makes any sense. What that means is you can't vary the axes between the letters, even though that might seem like something you'd obviously want to do, and still have it be a single font. You're no longer using a single font if you want to do that. So there's this other thing called glyph-wise, in the sense of, wise in the mathematical sense. Each, pairwise, I think that's a thing. Glyph-wise, and what you're going to change for glyph-wise is you're no longer setting a string and then properties. You're setting string and then giving it another function. Takes a single argument. That's a glyph. A glyph-wise glyph is the type of this thing. I'm not sure that. Oh yeah, there you go. Glyph-wise glyph. And what you're going to return from this function is a style object. And the style object is going to end there. And then the glyph-wise object is going to end there. You can do a little indenting to fix that up. So basically what's happening now is this actually should be the same. It's exactly the same because you're not using any information about the glyphs. You're simply using information about the animation as a whole, which is f.e. So what changes now is you can say f adj, adjacent, and then this g, glyph-wise glyph object, has a property I, which is its index within the string. So A will be 0, B is 1, C is 2. And you're just going to adjust this. And basically what you're saying is, I don't want the timing now. I want the timing adjusted by frame number g.I. So maybe this will make intuitive sense. This is the kind of thing that sometimes I know how to use it, but I don't even understand what's happening. Usually you want to do something like this to exaggerate the difference in timing between each letter. So now they're kind of offset from each other. So the A is looping in one timing, the B is looping in another timing, the C is looping in another timing still. And you can exaggerate it further. You can really go crazy with the exaggeration, and then you start to get, it won't seem like it's looping in one direction because they're looping so differently. You start to get that cycle behavior. Again, not really sure what I'm talking about. We can do 5, and then you can do the same thing with other axes. So we could say the exact same thing for gravity, and you'll start to see that happen. This might not look very good in the screen recording. I'm going to make this thicker. Actually, I'm going to say background is 0, and it's white on black. Maybe that's a little easier to see. Better contrast ratio. These don't need to be the same though, which is kind of the beauty of this adj function, is that you can get more complex animations than you can really think of mathematically, if that makes sense. Usually when people do animations like this, they do them in Drawbot and they're using sine and cosine functions. I just can't understand that stuff. So I came up with this other way of thinking about animating without doing the math so literally. I know a lot of people like doing math. I don't like doing math, even though this might seem mathy. Anyway, it's doing that. It's a little slow. So if you change the timeline, it would get a lot. Ooh, that's not good. That's bad. The TU is wrong now, I guess. So the TU is still reacting only to the timing of the single animation loop itself, 0 to 59. So you can do the same thing. F adj -G, and you probably want this to react to the yeast. As it gets yeastier, it should be pulled in for the sake of this animation. So that makes a little more sense now. But also you can combine, you know, you don't have to do the edge stuff at all. Ooh, that's fun. It's invalid syntax because you have 2 dots. And then, you know, fix it and it'll keep playing as soon as you save it. It's kind of interesting. And obviously you can expand on this idea. And now you can start to see kind of the effects of that f-edge, especially if we add it back. You know, I mentioned the walrus operator earlier, really apropos of nothing, but it is pretty fun to do stuff like this, where you say, I'm f-edging, I'm creating a new frame, which is, we can call it FA, and you can declare it inline like this with the walrus operator, eyes and teeth. FA is now an object you can use later on, so instead of figuring out where you want to be, you can just say FA like that, and then that gets you the same result. You could do that here too if you wanted everything to be all synced up. It's all synced up, but you're using a different easing equation. So these are all kind of, you know, an infinity of parameters to tweak. You start to get kind of funky bouncing stuff happening. EEI often gets you pretty exaggerated stuff. Yeah, that's kind of clunky. I don't love that. I think I'm going to go back to having this be different. Because when you make it different, you get to see more of the design space of the font, more of what it's capable of doing, because you're creating more combinations, I think. Again, looks terrible. I'm a big fan of EEIO. That's why it's the default. It just has a real organic quality to it. Anyway, might be a little fun to exaggerate these. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that. All right, let's keep that. We called it welcome because it should say welcome, or at least that was the original idea. Kind of like hello. That's pretty fun. To take it further from here, you can play with it as an image, and you can do imagey effects, which gets into this idea of what's known as a chain in Coldtype, or a CH for short. We can call it chain too. That's also a function. These are the same thing, chain and CH. But what you're doing here is you're saying, okay, I have what I want. I have this lockup of hello animating every frame, but rather than return it to the renderer as just a path, you know, this kind of simple, unfilled, simply stroked path, I'm going to play with it as an image. So phototype is a function that'll, well, there you go. There's your inline documentation there. Inspired by the Coldtype era of typography, or lithofilm, I believe, as it's known. So you pass in the rectangle again, because as soon as it's an image, you have to have a bounds for the image. The simplest way to do that is to simply say that same rectangle, the max rectangle for what we're doing. And then to say you want to give it a blur. 5's pretty big, especially when you're working with kind of fragile lines like this. You can make it smaller. You can say the cut is, well, let's just see what this looks like. Let's just see what it looks like with the full defaults. Looks like nothing. Blur equals 1. Blur equals 1 often doesn't look good. It looks jaggy like that because of how this kind of busted algorithm works, but you can fix that with this cut W. That should smooth it out, as you can see. I often don't do blur 1 because it doesn't seem like there's much point. Big fan of ooh, that's cool. Blur 2 is fun. Cut W50, as you increase the blur, you probably want to bring this down. But you can see it's getting a little jaggy again. So you can take it back up. What's wrong here, quote unquote, is the cut itself is too high. So you're not exposing it long enough to get a lot of what the white parts. This is all, yeah, I don't know. It's photography, I guess. If you decrease the cut by default I think is 127 because this is out of 255. So 120. What you see here, these kind of gluing together, these are a lot of fun to me because that's what used to happen when people made graphic design in the pre-digital world. You can see it in motion too. So it's just recalculating this for every frame. It's doing this image-based effect, which is pretty cool. You can really go low with this too. So it's like you're getting a thicker line as if you were changing this value, but you're not changing that value. You can change that value. You can do something like that. That's pretty cool. You can make it thinner again. But you're using this image-based processing to I don't really know how to describe that. You're exposing what you've got I have no clue. It does what this is. Now, what's weird is if you fill it with 0, let's say you stroke it with 0. Oh, you still want 5, and then this is the color value. 0 being black. It's just blank. There's nothing here. If you rendered this animation, I should not have rendered the entire animation. I hit the A key instead of the Command A key. If you just hit Command A with the viewer open, you'll just get the one frame. So this is a blank frame. So I can pull this over. Not much to that. Other than that, there's nothing there. If you change it back to white and hit Command A, I'm command clicking this to open it in VS Code. You'll see that it's just the white path on a transparent background. You say, I don't want it to be white. I want it to be black on white. That's where you say fill here is another optional parameter that does a different kind of filling from the usual filling. It's an image processing again based filling using the Skia engine. But that's what this is. So it's the same exact thing. It doesn't need to be 0. It can be a nice blue. It can be a nice blue on a yellow. Ooh, that's kind of gross. That's better. That's basically the idea there. Does it look better faster? That's cool. You could change the directionality of that. Although it's so big that you don't even see it. Still cool. If you wanted to more exaggerate the blur and get more, again, not really sure what this is even called. Gluey. That's how you do that. But I think for now, for simplicity's sake, let's do white on black. The default fill for Coldtype is which is what things that go into Coldtype have to be white in order to be exposed properly. What you could do is change this. If you did not white, you'd see it, you know, there is still white content there. It's lightness. It's really, I shouldn't say white. It's based on exposing for lightness, which is how photography usually works. That's pretty cool, but a little simpler to think of it this way. Again, you can bring that down. You can really blur the heck out of it and get some pretty cool effects, as if your lens was super blurred. Or it's just going to disappear then. Be a little more precise there. I kind of like this. This is pretty fun. It's pretty funky. That's kind of it, I guess. What I would do now at this stage is hit the A key, and you'll see it's all rendering out. And then you can just, take these files and pull them into something like Premiere. Any video editor can handle sequential pings like this and turn it into an image sequence. Or you can say release equals welcome export H.264. Does this work? Let's see. Yes, it does work. So what I did there is I said welcome.export is a special function available on your animation, which is called welcome. You create an exporter that exports an H.264, which is an MP4. And if you sign it to the release function name, then Coldtype can find it when you come over here and you hit the R key. So it just did it again because I hit the R key again. And now it's here. What you might be noticing is because I changed the I changed the length from 60 to 30, there are a bunch of frames in here that are blank, because when I rendered it at the 60 length, it was wrong. It was blank. If I changed it again to 60, that would be fixed, but that's probably not what you want to do. You want to delete these frames, basically. So you come over here and you hit Shift \, and then you see it says deleted rendered version, and those frames are all gone. Now you re-render it, hit the A key, see it's rendering, then you hit the R key, and now it should be that length. Usually when you do stuff like this, you want it to loop. I want it to loop, so you can say loops equals 4. Come back and hit the R key. Now it's going to loop. But it's pretty messed up looking. That's because it's actually rendering to a transparent background in H.264, which it doesn't want to do. It would really prefer you give it a background. So if you pass this special key in, render BG, then it will render what's specified as your background color into the images itself. So if you re-render with the A key and then hit R again, no longer jaggy. Still a little jaggy, which has to do with the Coldtype thing. Which has to do with this cut W. You could soften it up by increasing that. That's probably a little too soft. Still a little too soft. That's pretty cool though. Let's render it again. Hit the R key again. Now it's looking pretty good. Obviously, if you wanted to avoid all this jaggy nonsense, you just take out the Coldtype call, and then you got your real deal here. Just to show what's happening, we can change that. And then if you re-render, it'll render this blue background in without the Coldtype effect. Hitting R again. You know, it still looks a little jaggy. I think that has to do with the fact that it's being resized by Finder here, which is not a high quality resizing, as you can see when I actually open the real thing. It looks much better. And you can post that now. You can make it much longer. I like to avoid, if you're going to post this on Instagram or something, their looping is horrible. It'll be wrong within, +5, -5 frames, +10, I don't know. But now if you say 16, it's a real long loop, so people can enjoy the seamless looping that you'll get with this. Anyway, that was that tutorial. Thank you for watching. One addendum. I'm back again. We're going to make the thumbnail for this tutorial using Coldtype. So we're no longer using this same file, but we're going to say Coldtype tutorials welcome chi thumbnail.py. Yes. This is going to be multi-line text. We might want to use the rich text, which is a way to specify different font styles and a single kind of short paragraph typesetting. But I don't think we necessarily need to do that because all we're doing is 2 lines and then Coldtype as well. So we can create a set of pens. That's PS. A stew, which is, what are we calling this? Making a variable font loop, making a writing. I like that. Writing a variable font loop with Coldtype. But we're not going to do that here because we're going to say Mistral. Great font. Let's see what that does. Freaking sick looking. Background equals. You know what? This also is not an animation. It's a renderable. So you no longer get F, you have R, which is just a rectangle. I can say the background is that, and we want this to be white, and we're working on a full HD 1920 1080. Again, looks pretty bad. Also, my screen resolution is so low, can't quite see this, so that's something fun. Quit this. Your window, I could say in the center, window pin center, window transparent 1, window pass 1, so it doesn't get any clicks. Window focus, window float 1. That's by default in my setup. So it's going to be, ooh, I don't want window transparent. I want window opacity like that. Let's see what that does. That's cool. Awesome. Again, we haven't actually aligned anything. Ooh, there you go. See, I thought I was in an animation. Writing a variable font loop with Coldtype. Now we pass in Coldtype. It might be a little hard to see. Let's make it less transparent. More transparent. Coldtype font. There's this little special Coldtype font that's embedded in Coldtype. We can use that because it just has the letters for Coldtype. Do they need to be capitalized? We can do the same thing. Align it to R and then see what happens. It's blue by default. Again, fill it with 1. Do it more interesting. Ooh, that's a little bright. But I like it. So now what becomes the issue is this is too small. Now it's not too small. But Perhaps what you want to do is change the tracking. But now it's overlapping itself. So what you want to do is understroke. But you need to reverse the letters, that's R. Now they're going that way. Classic look. And then we can do the same photo type effect to get rid of the black lines. Chain photo type, FAR. Ooh, again, I think I'm in an animation. That's not enough. Move the cut up to get less white. Make the understroke stroke width bigger. There we go. And soften it. Maybe it doesn't need to be that rounded. Cool, that looks good. Although I don't think we want to phototype it yet, because we still need to align things in pen world before we change things to images. So we keep it like that. If you look at it that way, you realize that it still has the variable font overlaps in it. So you say RO equals 1 to remove overlaps. But we do want it to look like this. Now what we can say is distribute vertically. Ooh, I gotta reverse them first. So now you say writing a variable font loop with Coldtype. I don't love that width is on its own. Writing a variable font loop with Coldtype also looks terrible. Writing a variable font loop with Coldtype. You can track vertically as well. For some reason it needs to be negative. You know, I don't totally understand that. I should probably fix that. This is kind of a very honest portrayal of me working with Coldtype. Just for readability's sake, we can editability's sake, editability's sake, we can realign that stuff. Kind of sucks. Damn. Writing a loop with variable fonts and Coldtype. Plus. Yeah, that's not terrible. Very hard to see what we're doing. Apologies. Still lame. Can use the variable version. Really just need that. I'm starting to like this. Probably want to change the leading here. And the equivalent of the leading here. very narrow. Don't need that exaggerated TU there. Starting to come together. And then what we can do is phototype it at this point. There we go. That's kind of fun. So you get a better sense of what this really looks like. We don't need to do all this stuff. We can hide the sidebar. A little too blurred, I think. That looks pretty cool though. Maybe take it up. Very kind of old school looking. Maybe rotate the whole thing. Not that much. Like that much. Yeah, I like that. Pull it in. More. Scale it up. That's cool. Scale it up slightly less. Or slightly more, but then translate it. So it kind of touches on the top and bottom. Or, you know, you can say true vertical when you align it. It still doesn't get what you want. Also, that looks terrible. You do need to align it. And do a little translation. Cool. Hit the A key. Bang. Ooh. Do want render background though. Oof. There's something I need to fix. Bummer. An A-frame is automatically a one-frame animation. Kind of with the idea that everything you do want is available in an animation, but rather than have a distinct concept of a renderable and an animation, you just have a single frame animation, which, you know, I don't actually dislike. Thumbnail. And then we can say Command A, or just A actually. There you go. Done. Cool. See ya.